Hello and welcome to Miniature Realms. My name's Stuart and I'm just back from Salute. More about that really on another video. I don't want to go into sort of the details of Salute all on this one, but what I did want to cover on the back of my last video and lots of future upcoming videos is my obsession with Wargames' epic range, and at the moment the epic Waterloo set, so the beginnings of Napoleonics. And the people that went to Salute were able to get hold of a copy of December's Wargames Illustrated just over a week before it hit subscribers, and probably nearly 2 weeks before it hits the shops. And if you are a subscriber and a Prime member, which I am, you're also able to pick up a free sprue, which I did as well. So I managed to get myself one French and one British sprue. So what I wanted to do here is do a quick review of the content related to it in the magazine. Quick thumb through really, and do a bit of a initial sprue review as I've got my hands on them finally. I know lots of people will have by now as well, but before I get into that, I thought I'd just have a little bit of a recap on news that's been out and about and things that have been confirmed since my previous video after the announcement by Wargames itself. I did put a post up on the community tab for the channel, which kind of outlined this, but not everyone will have seen that and read that, so I just thought I would sort of go through and cover that off. So I'll whiz through this, won't keep you long because I know most of you would rather see the sprue and hear what I think about that, but the news is quite interesting anyway. So let's start. So John Stallard appeared on a really awesome podcast called the Hobby Support Group, episode 28, and it was a good hour and 10 minutes interview with them, covering a wide range of things to do with Warlord games. Really interesting if you haven't listened to him talk about it before, so not watched any of the videos maybe from the recent open day on the Warlord Games YouTube channel or anything before. It's really good. It gives you a little bit of insight into the way the business works, and he talks about the costs of the tooling for the sprues for this, which is quite eye-opening and maybe gives us a little bit more insight into why they didn't do certain things for American Civil War when it came out. I'm just going to go through the bullet points. If you really don't want to listen to the whole interview but do want to listen to this bit rather than me just sort of repeating it to you, it starts from about 49 minutes in when they start talking about the epic battles, Napoleonic stuff. But I do recommend listening to the whole thing. It's really good. So he talked about how successful the epic American Civil War was, and they did learn certain things from it, what they could and what they couldn't do. In hindsight, they would have done a couple more things in plastic because it's very expensive at the moment to do things in metal. I think he mentioned a 60% uplift in costs of producing metal miniatures, which is, that's anyone that runs a business or even doesn't need to run a business, and I do, that's going to be pretty going to hurt your margins quite a lot. But John Stallard mentions there's going to be 11 plastic frames for this release as it stands at the moment, and that's including things obviously in later waves because we don't have all 11 at the moment. So at the moment I believe we have got the British and French heavy cavalry sprues, which I got in front of me, and that's 2. So there's the light cavalry ones, takes us to 4, and the 2 infantry ones will take us to 6. So we've got 5 more to come in later waves. There's going to be Highlanders and Skirmishing 95th, and that sounds like that comes on 1 frame. Old Guard and Middle Guard and some Sappers and Engineers, that sounds like 1 frame as well. 2 Prussian frames. And I think that's 10, so that does mean that there's something else, an 11th frame, unless something was misspoken or something like that. So we'll find out what that is closer to time, if there is an 11th frame. I don't know whether John gave away more than he that they expected to at that interview or not, but it was great for all of us to hear a little bit more, and it definitely builds the excitement, that kind of thing. So we know we've got lots more to look for. I think he said the Prussians were going off to tooling, so that could be, they recorded that at some point sort of early November, I think, and it can take 4 to 5 months to get it all tooled and ready, so we may not see the Prussians maybe for 3 or 4 months, maybe Easter time or something like that. I'm guessing here, I'm just doing the maths for you, maybe completely wrong, but there will be a number of waves. And if we look back at the American Civil War, or those of you who weren't part of the American Civil War epic releases and didn't buy into that, we had the initial release, and then every sort of couple of months after that we had a second and then a third wave. So maybe we're looking at something similar. He talked about understanding there's the criticisms to do with no Dutch and Belgians and things, and he just sort of said, sadly, we just can't do it all. The costs of plastic tooling, we have to make some choices. Doesn't mean they won't come in the future, but it might not be what these releases are about. They are to fight epic battles, big battles, or larger size battles at a smaller scale. And you'll always probably get more detail and fuller ranges at 28mm because it's probably more popular. But there will be some painting guides and things coming out on how to kind of paint convert, if that makes sense, how to paint some of the existing lines differently to make them good representations on the table. Now, that won't be for everyone. It doesn't bother me at this scale. That's absolutely perfect. I want to work in plastic as much as possible. That won't be for every Napoleonic gamer. There's nothing wrong with that. If that's not for you, this release probably isn't for you. I don't mind people not liking this range. I like it a lot, but that doesn't mean I don't understand people's arguments there. They want a lot more detail. They want a full range. I totally understand it. That's not what this is, and that's not what they're doing. So it's aimed at people who don't mind that kind of thing. So it's a kind of, there's plenty of alternatives out there really. If you want to play in 6mm or in 10mm or in 18mm, other 15mm ranges, or 28, there's something for everyone. If you're not happy with not having exact sculpts for everything, then you can say this release may not be the one for you. Ken from Miniature Wargaming Warriors and I have set up a Napoleonic group on Facebook for this. So it's Epic Battles, Warlord Games Epic Battles Napoleonic, and a couple of the staff have posted in there, and Alistair has posted some really lovely Belgians that he's been painting. So the 7th Belgium, and he's also painted the 71st Highlanders using the rifles. So he's actually used existing models and shown how you can paint them in a different way to represent them on the tabletop. So if you haven't seen those and you're not in that group and you're enjoying this video and you like epic stuff that I do, it might be worth, if you're on Facebook, going and joining it. I totally appreciate Facebook's not for everyone. Yeah, good stuff. I quite like the idea of doing some minor paint conversions, and I won't go on about it now, but I've already got some ideas brewing in my head. So for those of you who might want other periods, I'll touch on this briefly. He did mention that the original plan was for ECW next, other than this. I think it's widely known that it's one of John Stallard's favourite periods, and they were looking at doing a similar kind of release to the ECW, I believe. Now, he didn't say that's what's coming next, but implications are that could come in the future, and it wouldn't surprise me that once they finish with this one, that will come, and I think they will do other things. I think we will see quite a few of these epic battle releases. Maybe not as big as this one. Maybe some of the other periods will go back to more to the American Civil War size, but who knows? Who knows? So that's that part of the news. And then we had another blog by the community page for Warlord Games, and they went into depth about the British, and they talked about how many models are in the army, and I believe they'll probably do something similar for the French coming up. They tend to release maybe once a week or something like that, I'm guessing a little bit, but they tend to release those community articles which sort of delve a little bit deeper into the releases, and it kind of lists what you get with the British starter kit, and it's 800 line infantry and 295th rifles, 27 light dragoons, which is 5 bases with 2 models spare, and so on and so on. I'll pop an image on the screen now. I won't read out the list, but it kind of shows you exactly what you get, what spares you'll have, and it gives you a really nice way of planning it out rather than having to work the maths out yourself. But they also posted up some, what I believe are renders, in fact I'm pretty sure those are renders, of some future troops. So the Highlander Colonel, which I'm guessing is on the plastic sprue, and the 95th Rifles and Skirmishing, when they look very, very cool. So that's a little window into what's coming up with one of the future sprues. But that was all the news we had. And then I went to Salute, and apart from rushing to the Wargames Illustrated stand to make sure I got my magazine and got my free sprue before they all went, I have no idea whether they all went or not. When I asked whether I could buy a magazine as well as getting the free one, feeling a bit guilty, they said no, that's not a problem at all. So I didn't see people with hundreds of them, if I'm honest with you, so I don't think there was anyone taking the mick too much. But we can check eBay in a few days and we'll find out, I guess. But I spoke to Paul Sawyer very briefly at the beginning, and sort of said I was really interested in the range, etc. And I did say that we haven't that John had done the interview and gave some things away, but there's been no mentions of generals and things like that. And as part of the ACW release, that was generals came free with the original box as well. So aside from the officers that come on the sprues, there's not any commander packs and things. And is that likely to come along? And he I would say he confirmed it. He didn't say in any sort of definite, yes, definitely they will be these generals at that price, but he did say, you know, that's something that's like you're likely to see in the future. It's likely to be metal or Warlord resin, and he said it will be the kind of personalities you would expect. So hopefully that comes along in maybe wave 2, if not wave 3. Because I know I'd like to get some generals, and you can generally convert them quite, pun there, accidental pun, you can generally convert them quite well into others from my experience with the American Civil War ones. But anyway, let's get on to the main point of the video after rambling on for 10 minutes and giving you some news. I just know many of you will appreciate that. Sprues in the magazine. Let's quickly put the sprues to the side. I'm going to show you what's in the magazine, because there is a lot of Napoleonic coverage in it this time, which is obviously very relevant to the video. Now, I'm not going to flick through the whole magazine, that would be pointless, but you do have your usual double page spread advert with some ways of looking at the miniatures up close. You've got the website for that, which most people use these days. But the first thing I've kind of bookmarked is a full article talking a little bit about the release. It's an interview with Warlord Games, some lovely pictures, some pictures of the miniatures painted up a little bit closer and things as well, some lovely artwork, some just general talk with John Stallard about the release and what's going on with it, etc, etc. So it's a nice kind of article, lots and lots of pictures, as you can see. So if you're excited about this release, this is a really, really nice long article where you've got some nice pictures to drool over while you're waiting to get your hands on them. And then we have the painting guide. Now, the painting guide for the American Civil War was absolutely fantastic. It is a different painter now, but from what I've seen in the new painter, he's absolutely fantastic as well. I think pretty sure it's a different guy that did it from last time. I know they advertised for a painter. So it takes you through stage by stage. Is using a bit of a zenithal highlight, which is the way I like to paint with these things. I haven't read it in detail yet. But he's using contrast paints, which is the way I've been painting the American Civil War, and it's the way they painted the American Civil War stuff in their guide as well, which kind of inspired me, but also I paint that way anyway, and have done since contrast came out on smaller scale miniatures. So using zenithal and then using contrast really takes some of the stages out, and it's up to you then when you go back and do a highlight. But it gives you a really, really good idea, and it's a lovely detailed stage by stage. And it mentions that the stage by stage French version will be going up on the website. There just wasn't enough room to put it in the magazine as well. So it's a really, really good paint tutorial there. And then at the back of the magazine there are a number of Napoleonic articles as well. So talking about artillery, talking about square, so it's very Napoleonic themed. So if you're into Napoleonics, even not liking this scale and this release, probably not sure why you're still watching the video if that is the case. But it's really, really good issue if you're into Napoleonics in general. If you're interested in Napoleonics and the epic range, then it's absolutely fantastic. And here we have the free sprues that you get on the front. I believe it's going to be random depending on which copy of the magazine you get. I'm going to have one sent as well because I am a subscriber anyway, but I really wanted to pick these up so I could review them and put a video out for you guys. If you're not familiar with the American Civil War release, and this is a new thing for you, these are the standard size bases that are being used. The inventory are 60 by 20. And I'll cover that in a future video, probably my first vlog of building my own armies. I'll talk a little bit about the frontage and how that will work in the game, and the positives for it, and some of the things you might want to kind of change, because the frontage can be quite large at certain times. But I won't cover that now. The artillery base. You've got two 20 by 20s on these are for the officers. I haven't used those for officers myself. I tend to put mine on round bases. I quite like my commanders on round bases, but they're all there, all you need. Now it's supposed to be 5 cavalry to a base, that's the plan. On my American Civil War I only put 4 on, but I think that suited the way cavalry worked in the American Civil War more for me than this, and I'll be definitely sticking to 5 for Napoleonics. So on the British sprue itself, now it isn't the easiest to see because they're coloured plastics, so it's much easier to see on the sort of greys rather than the reds, but we'll work with it as best as possible. So you get Scots Greys, Household Cavalry, Heavy Dragoons and Royal Horse Artillery with a 9-pounder as well. So we can try and keep these in focus. So your artillery, you get 2 sides with the wheels attached, and then they fit either side of the gun, which you can see up there. Now on the American Civil War ones, the wheel is a flat wheel in its design, which meant you could do a little bit of conversion by swapping them around and changing the sides they were on. The design of the Napoleonic one, that's not going to work because the wheel is a little bit concave. That's obviously the right design. But just looking at the sprue now, it's not quite as straightforward to do that, so it'd be a little bit harder to make them more individual, especially the way they're attached to the wheel. I'm not sure. Head repositioning, if you want to, for a lot of people at this scale, is not what you're going to want to do, and it's probably a little bit ironic me talking about making them look a little bit more individual when I'm also not worried about paint conversions for them and things being accurate. But it is nice when you've got lots to change them slightly. So not as easy to do as the American Civil War ones, I think, at first look, but not a major issue at all. So we've got the Scots Greys. You've got 4 of them on that sprue, I believe. Should be a 5th, maybe. Should be a whole base, shouldn't it? Maybe not. Maybe not, because you get 3 sprues in a brigade box. So you've got your Scots Greys, which are, I think, pretty cool, to be honest with you. I don't know whether there'll be something I make use of. I'm pretty sure I'm still going to buck the trend and mainly do peninsular focus, though I will make sure my army is usable for 100 days as well, because I like the whole campaign, to be honest with you. Then the next lot we have down at the bottom of the sprue is you have your Household Cavalry, and then you have your dragoons as well, your heavy dragoons, which make up kind of the bulk of them here. And I really like them. They're crisp and very detailed for the size. They seem to compare very well to the quality of the American Civil War ones. Obviously there weren't plastic American Civil War ones. The cavalry were in metal. These look like they're going to clean up really well. Sort of there's your typical mould line all the way around the edge, but that will come off fairly easily. So I imagine assembling these armies will be quite quick. You're going to want to paint them on a strip, I imagine, rather than on the base, because otherwise you're just not going to be able to get to the detail. There is a lot of detail, so you kind of have to pick that out, but that's where the painting with the zenithal really kind of helps you. So I'm really happy with that. I think they're exactly what I expect anyway. They won't be for everyone, as I said, but I'm a big fan, and hopefully me holding the sprue here and rambling on for a few minutes and you've got a bit of an idea of what they're like. So let's have a look at the French. So here's your French. Let's start off by looking at the horse artillery with the 6-pounder here. So very cool. Same as the British, in the sense that the design will mean that it's a little bit harder than it was with the American Civil War to kind of make them individual, but not the end of the world at all. They're absolutely fantastic, and I'd much rather have one on a sprue like this and have more sprues than have them focus on multiple different poses and then miss out on something else. But very cool. And then we'll move on to the rest of it. So we've got carabiniers, which are the guys up here. Your cuirassiers are down the bottom here, and then these here will be your dragoons. But overall, I'm really happy with the early signs. I mean, I was hoping we were going to get infantry on the magazines, because it's the infantry that I think look amazing on the table. That's the real draw, the mass ranks of infantry. But these are fantastic. and that means I'm still excited about the inventory, so maybe it's a really good way of doing this and marketing this, and just another way of showing something off they haven't before. I think we have a very good idea what the inventory is going to look like from the pictures and from the reference of the American Civil War, and by looking at the plastic cavalry in this scale, which they haven't done before because it was a metal for American Civil War, they're showing off what they can do for cavalry as well, and I think these are going to paint out really well. And I will start doing some painting videos on these, and more will be coming very soon. This won't be the last time you hear about this topic until release in January. For those of you who have been long waiting for the Wars of the Roses next update, I lost the footage unfortunately, but I have re-recorded it and it will be out a couple of days after this one. So thank you very much for taking the time to watch the video. Please do like, share and subscribe and all that stuff, and check out my other videos. I know I've got a lot of new subscribers at the moment, so welcome aboard. Hopefully you'll get a good idea what kind of videos to expect for the Napoleonic stuff by looking at the American Civil War kind of back catalogue. That's the kind of way I'll approach it as well, a mix of a project vlog taking you on my own journey into my own kind of dipping my toes into this game, and painting, lots of painting tutorials because I am a commissioned painter and I like painting, and there will also be boxings and reviews and things like that as well. So take care, and I'll catch you all soon.